This is the first time in history every person is consuming a 100% cooked diet, not to mention it being ultra processed and full of industrial chemicals. It wasn't even 100 years ago when everybody still drank raw milk. Even now, even all nuts and seeds, even if they're labeled raw, they're pasteurized. All fruit juices are pasteurized. Everything is heavily processed. It's all dried, frozen, sterilized, and irradiated. Aajonus often referenced the Bottinger's cats experiment, where hundreds of cats were fed various diets. The ones fed a 100% processed diet, everything cooked, dried, or frozen, by the 5th generation were completely infertile. Any form of processing steers us towards the same deterioration. Aajonus coined the term primal to represent a complete system of healing, not just a raw animal-based diet. Many people eat raw meat and think they're following the primal diet, but it's very important that we distinguish that raw animal-based and primal are not the same thing. This is about taking us back to primitive health, which requires detox, not copying the primitive humans who are already toxin-free. Aajonus was taken to the brink of death multiple times, which forced him to learn how to heal. He went from being almost completely paralyzed in non-stop agonizing pain to a state of health only the top genetically elite can compare to. And that wasn't an accident. He came here with a purpose, and his purpose was to bring us the truth of health. His message came complete. Once his purpose was fulfilled, discovering everything we need to know how to heal, his life ended. Many beginners in the journey are very excited to learn more truth, and the idea of settling on the information of only one man is sobering. Without seeing the decades of research and experimentation Aajonus went through, it's easy to see the diet as overly strict or outdated. But those who have studied Aajonus' work in depth know that each choice he made was backed by decades of proof. The truth is that without iridology, you'll be absolutely clueless when trying to measure results, because iridology is the only way to show definitive proof. Many people in their experiments will do things that make them feel better, but just because you're feeling better doesn't mean you're becoming healthier. It often means you're becoming stimulated. What you need to consider is this. With Aajonus having analyzed tens of thousands of viruses over the course of 30 years, he's seen the result of any disagreement you could ever possibly think of. He didn't come up with this diet based off of concepts that only make sense on paper. It's strictly based on clear proof. Unlike blood work, which only shows you what's circulating in the body and not what's actually stored, or relying on scientific theories that don't actually apply to reality, iridology shows us exactly what's happening inside of our bodies. There's been many people who have generally followed the diet, but they continue to consume salt, or they never made vegetable juice, or they never followed the strict combinations. And every time, Aajonus saw very clearly the impact that it had on their irises. So I believe there's no disagreement that you could possibly have that Aajonus hasn't seen the proof against already. And like I said, just because it makes you feel better doesn't mean it's making you healthy. It could be stopping detox. It could be stimulating you. It could just be a temporary solution to fulfill a deficiency that you could fulfill in a healthier way, and a way that wouldn't also be destructive. It's important that we preserve the integrity of Aajonus' work, not just in the name, Primal, but also in practice. The Primal diet is not a loose guideline where you simply eat raw foods. It's a very articulate system. And it's not just based off of science that makes sense on paper. It's observation-based. Many people follow diets that make sense. They know the vocabulary. They learn all the scientific terms. They learn how they think the body works. But just because it makes sense on paper, just because a study says something, doesn't mean it's real. Many people have theories that could, quote, disprove the diet, but they don't produce results. To follow the diet properly means resisting the urge to modify what you don't understand and trust the only proof you have, the iris. When it comes to living in truth, it takes more than just putting a raw steak in your mouth to leave the matrix. What matters most are your motives. The desire for truth can sometimes become entangled with ego. It's something we must examine ourselves honestly. The purpose of the diet is to bring you to truth, not just through food, but through how you live, think, and see the world. You need to have something meaningful to invest your time into. The diet is just a passive pursuit. You do the diet, you eat raw meat, and then what? Many people think that just because they eat raw meat, all of a sudden they're better than everybody else without even changing anything. Without a clear and practical plan, your instinct during free time will likely be to distract and numb yourself. It's not enough to only have a goal. You have to understand very clearly what you need to do. You need to have something that you can always focus on no matter where you are. If you want to make the dream of a better life a reality, you need to work endlessly until it's achieved. We are standing at the beginning of a new era. Every civilization that ever rose began with the vision of a single person. The traditions of the past all offer their own unique insights. By learning from the wisdom of all cultures, we have the opportunity to create a more balanced way of living than has ever been seen before. Many see the attack on traditional values as proof of their truth. They do hold value, which is why they're being attacked, but they are still incomplete systems and in many ways controlled opposition. And then many people look to the primitive tribes, as they've been untouched by modern poisons and live in vibrant health. eating raw foods. Living nomadically off the land can be very attractive, and it could be useful for purification and detoxing, but I also do not see that as the pinnacle of human experience. People think that to be natural, we have to live in nature primitively in the same way that we lived in primitive times, but you must consider it is part of our nature to learn, grow, and adapt, to improve things. Is a bird nest unnatural because a bird created it? The same thing goes for things that are man-made. Just because something is man-made doesn't mean it's bad. It can be a clue that it's more likely to be bad and we have to investigate it, but not everything that's man-made is bad. Looking at the times we are in today, we have access to the entire record of human experience. We have access to all of human history, except for what we've been lied to about, but besides the point, every culture and every tradition is now in reach. No generation before us could study the patterns of the entire world at once. We're not limited to one region, one lineage, or one belief system. We can pull from all of them, extract what's true and discard what's not, and use it to build something that's greater than anything we've ever seen before. This is not a return. This is the beginning of something entirely new. To return to the past, whether traditional values or anything, that's not evolution. That's regression. My vision is to create a 3-layered structure of communities, each for a different stage of commitment. Not everybody can leave society overnight, and many don't want to, and that's okay. Some are stuck in leases. Some have jobs or families that keep them in the city. Some just don't want to give everything up. No matter where someone is, they need to have a place to start. Level 1 is the Urban Primal Studio. The first layer is for those still in the city. A peaceful space, downtown, where you can step out of the polluted city and go straight into a room full of plants producing tremendous amounts of fresh air and air filters to remove all the chemtrails. And it's going to be cut off from the noise, ideally well soundproofed. The fresh air will make you feel like you're deep in nature despite being in the city. There will be no EMF, no toxic fragrances, and there will even be hot tubs filtered to Aajonus standards. This way, you can come here to study, to work on your laptop. Instead of Wi-Fi, we'll have Ethernet cables, so you don't have to have any EMF. There will be a kitchen with juicers, blenders, everything you need. There will be weekly shipments from the Amish where you can get your food more affordably. Any place where we get 20 people on the diet, we can do bulk shipping, taking shipping from $100 per package to about $25. That way we make the diet more affordable and more accessible. And with this, you will have a community. You'll actually have an active social life with like-minded people. And all food will be served 100% raw and strictly primal, no exceptions. People can eat what they want at home, but in these spaces, the standard is a non-negotiable. Level 2 is the community slightly outside the city. This will be 45 minutes to an hour and a half outside the city, to where you can still make the drive any day of the week or maybe on the weekend, get away from the noise, and find some peace. We will produce food on the farm. You can get unrefrigerated milk. There will be work exchange programs. There will be soundproof rooms for music rehearsal. There will be a stage for performances. And again, there's also going to be hot tubs. Level 3 is the off-grid community. This is for people who really want to leave society entirely. These will be very remote, far from airports, therefore far from chemtrails, cities, industries, and any non-organic agriculture. This is where a new society emerges, where children can truly grow up without screens, consumer culture, or any influence from modern society. The first generation of children will detox throughout childhood because their mothers are still going to give them some toxins during pregnancy, but they're not going to have the same damage that we did. They're not going to waste years in school. They're not going to be playing video games. There's going to be no TVs. They'll have creative pursuits, physical training, survival skills, all sorts of meaningful things to focus on. They will have abundant social lives, surrounded by dozens of other families and children growing up with them. I see it. It'll be like a non-stop music festival on a farm combined with a meditation retreat center. These will be the most brilliant, resilient, and creative children you'll ever meet in your entire life. Imagine children not raised in confusion and anxiety, born with a greater purpose. They'll have a level of clarity that's completely unprecedented. Ideally, I'm not going to have children until I have at least a level 2 community developed. Ideally level 3, but I know that, by the time we have the level 2, it might be time to start having kids, but I do not want to have kids in the city. Level 2 is necessary. I don't want my kids to be bombarded with mixed messages and screens and the degeneracy of modern society. It's our responsibility to create the ideal environment for our children to be raised in, and we need to do whatever it takes every day of our lives to make this dream a reality.